Hey, welcome to, I guess this is episode 81 of the Spiritual Seekers podcast. And today I have special guest, Sarah Thomas, who is stone medicine expert. And I'm just so grateful to have you here, Sarah. So thank you for coming. And can you
So,
give us an explanation of just where you're at and what you do currently?
yeah, absolutely. So I think I live on the edges of the crystal healing world a little bit because I describe what I do as stone medicine.
Mhm.
And that is a little bit different from crystal healing in semantics, and stone medicine is derived from herbal medicine. And back in ancient China, they very much used stones as herbs. So they would crush them up and had all different kinds of stones, from gold to alum to silver to malachite to pearl. And they worked with the constituents of the stones to affect the body physically.
Mhm.
Now, where we are now in the world, we work with them more vibrationally. And we've been doing that since the New Age revolution, acknowledging the subtle energy force and the vibration of stones. And my life is kind of about bringing those two worlds together, like that ground piece of the constituents and the classifications and the properties of minerals and how they're all different and how they affect physicality in the material world, and then still bringing that piece in about immateriality and the subtle vibrational effects of crystals, and kind of like bringing together earth and sky. So I just had to describe myself to someone yesterday who was helping me out, and I said, it's kind of just crystal healing with a twist, because I have a teacher. Most people that work in ancient lineages will have one really special teacher. And so I've had a teacher for a couple decades from a Taoist lineage. So I've been studying ancient stone medicine for a long time. And I think that's kind of the angle that I come at everything from.
Yeah, because it's like that cool, like old knowledge. Like, oh my God, like it's amazing that you have access to someone who is sharing it so willingly. Because I'm sure, I don't know if it was kept secret or if it had that kind of shrouded mystery to it. But the fact that you can just see it all and learn it and then share it is really just so cool. And one of my, like I took Sarah's course in two different courses of yours in the summer and in the winter last year. And one of the things that I turned around and shared with my community was woo, I was like, oh my God, like I never knew that. Like, because it's like, it's always such an insult. It could be an insulting and dismissive thing, but I'm always like embracing it. I'm like, whatever, I'm all woo woo. But to not even think about it as being like the word like W-U. Like I always just was like WOO, and just like it's like a flaky, okay, Karen's this flaky healer, blah, blah. But it's like, no, there's like ancient wisdom in this. And like, so I took with your definition of it and like made it into a post or something where I shared it. And so many of my healer friends were like, no way. Like it was like nobody else knew it. So I was so happy to share that. So tell me about that. Like, not that I remember the definition now because I don't always retain things, but like did you say it meant like witch or healer or just, I don't remember now what the definition is because I'm good like that.
I'd be happy to share it. We usually say things are woo woo. So even today, if you hear people on their podcasts or talking, they're like, "Well, I'm not woo woo," and they make fun of crystals, and they're saying, "I'm not going to get all crystal woo woo on you here." And
Yeah.
it's still attacked, I think, by the mainstream. Woo woo is a derogative term for the most part, and it just means that you're ungrounded and silly and saying
Mm-hmm.
like baseless claims. But the reality of that term is that it's actually WU
Mm-hmm.
out of ancient China, and I think this is particularly important for women to hear. It's important for all of us to hear, because we've all been everybody, we've all been
Mm-hmm.
everything in our lifetimes. But back in the day when this medicine was really surfacing, men were invited to the schools to study, and men were the teachers in the schools. And to get into those small schools it was almost like you had to have a priest to go through this person to get to the divine, right? That old story of like you have
Ugh,
to have a
yeah.
connection with this, usually a man, to get to the divine.
Right.
And women were very much like pushed to the outskirts. And women healers they often literally worked on the outskirts of town. They would be far away. You would have to travel a long time. to see them. But the thing is, when you'd make it to their hut or their place that they were living, they were extraordinary healers. And they were truly the channel of healing because they were able to go within. You know, being in a man body physiologically, they're a little bit more able to go without. They're a little bit more able to sense the outer world. Being in a woman body physiologically, there's
Hmm.
a way that we can go within. You know, the whole body is built to kind of go within. So women were able to meditate, go deep into their own inner world, and then from that place kind of confront and work with all dimensions. So women became these healers that were channeling energy, and they are so incredible. Like the ritual with which even they move across the room, the ritual with which they would place a stone or needle on the body, it's all has like this cadence and rhythm and is very, very, very intuitive. And those were called woo. And these woo were often hidden, they're secret. You probably know some woo in your life right now that are incredible healers that live somewhat on the outskirts of town, that aren't on Facebook, that aren't on Instagram. You know, like you kind of have to find them.
Hmm.
And so they're still around, and they were a huge source of healing. They would save people's lives, they would save children's lives, and then they were often persecuted, sometimes killed, sometimes, you know, chased down. So it is almost like analogous to the witch concept,
Hmm.
but something super sacred, I think, and to be revered, like what these women sacrificed, what they channeled. In fact, the lineage that I teach from and study was, you could say that it was started by a woman, actually, and people don't know that because she channeled in the true nugget, like the true piece of what was going to last and still lasts to this time.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
um I remember one of your stories, and like I loved, I just love how you teach, and I love the way you told stories and just all of it. And one of them was, oh, there's two stories in mind right now. I'm like, which one? When you were closing your studio or whatever in March of 2020, and how you had a song come on that was like from the crystals, and that was really beautiful. And it made me think of my own story of when I closed my studio, like March 13th. I had like two clients scheduled that day, and I was like, well, I might as well see them. And during one of, I think it was the final client session, a song came on that, it's just an instrumental song, but it always like rocks me. I forget even, I can't remember the name of the artist, but it's saved in my playlist. But it during it, and anytime I listen to it, it always makes me cry. Oh, most times. But I'll be listening to it, and I had this vision of all the healers on the planet holding hands, like the way you would do like Hands Across America, like almost like a cutout of all hands being held, and it was encircling the whole planet. And I was like, oh shit, like this is our time to rise and like to like guide and help and whatever. So it was just like, I thought it was cool that you had like a powerful experience like that final day when you're packing your stuff up, and I had that too, like it was just so neat. So what, I forget what the lyrics were of that song, but it was just, what was it, like Angel Heart or something? Angel
Yeah.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying every ending is really just a new start. And I knew when that song came on randomly, I knew my stones played it.
Yeah.
They speak to me in so many different ways. But yeah, it was about, because we were closing up. I mean, COVID had hit and we were closing up because the rest of the healers in the clinic, like we couldn't hold it all up. And it was amazing. It was crazy for me to take down my army of stones. For 15 years, I had worked with those stones and these giant tables all over the room, and to put them in boxes was like so sad. And they played me this song, like, it's not an ending, it's just a new beginning. And every time I sense my stones, it's such tremendous love that comes through them. It's a love that kind of like we don't experience here. It kind of knocks me down and blows me away and opens my heart.
Did you get into crystals at that time, like 15 years, like whatever, like plus three, like years ago? Or were you into crystals like as a small child? Did you collect things or rocks and things like that?
So as a small child, I was a suburban kid. I was playing sports. I mean, I was constantly playing sports, and my parents, that's what we did. We played sports.
Go
We didn't go
outside.
camping. We did go camping actually, but we would just look for crawfish in the river. It wasn't instilled in me about stones. Nobody taught me about stones. So I was all about just like riding my bike and playing with my He-Man characters, child of the 80s. I didn't realize about stones, like I didn't open my eyes and see that shaft of light kind of coming from them until I was probably 16, 17, 18 years old.
Okay, so it wasn't like you, because I know you do acupuncture, so it wasn't like after the whole acupuncture world opened up to you that it was the stones were first.
Stones were first, and I didn't know anything about them except that I loved to go to the store, like in my college town, and pick them out, and I would give them as gifts, and I thought they were so special. And I remember giving them as gifts, and people being like, "Okay, yeah, whatever," and I would be like, "Maybe I should take that back because
I
I'm
don't think
not
you're
really using."
appreciating.
I know. So there was that love, but then when I went and became an acupuncturist and started working with subtle energy and chi, as my life, then they really kind of like filled up from the bottom up, and I started to study them really deeply.
And I know that another story that was the other story I was thinking of was that one past life where you said that you were like an old lady with like a bulging eye and you scared the kids, but you were using the stones to like, not that you meant to scare the kids, but you were using the stones to like work on people. And they in the pre-acupuncture needle days, they would use the stones like in an aggressive way almost on the skin, right? Like to
Yeah,
try
the first
to
acupuncture needles were stones. Yeah, they used tourmaline when they could find it, which has that piezoelectric effect. Actually produces negative ions. I mean, that's an incredible stone needle. They used obsidian a lot because it like those blades can be so sharp, even
Mhm.
just in natural form. They used flint. They used opal a lot actually, and so they would sometimes stick the needles into the skin or do like tough techniques like scraping the needles on the skin. I mean, there were some more, I don't know what to say, barbaric ways sometimes that were probably more painful, but I remember doing that myself. And I resonate with that woo concept from, yeah, in my soul. So I feel like the woo of my soul speaks to me from the past and the future.
Mhm.
I remember doing that, having dark red quartz, like hematite quartz kind of
Right.
needles, inserting those into like pushing them into the skin, um, and really healing people with it. But it was somewhat of a, I think, I don't know, it was,
Misunderstood, yeah, by some.
yeah, misunderstood and maybe also painful for people.
Right. So yeah, and you were ousted from the community and chased to the woods or something like that. I forget.
Yes, actually that's come through very clear many times. I remember being on the run. I remember actually being killed. I remember who I was on the run with that I did meet in this lifetime. So yeah, there were some times that were pretty dramatic.
Yeah, I know. I had a healing session a couple days ago where it was like all about like, well, why do you do that? And it's like, because it's theta healing. So it's like you're just bringing out the words as they come out. And it's like, because I want to keep myself separate. And it's like, well, what's the danger in being accepted or whatever it was? And it was like, the image was basically being ostracized and almost like a circle of people standing around you pointing, and then you're like crying in the middle, like like that kind of. I'm like okay, well, I'm glad we can heal that another layer, because there's so many, there's so many lifetimes where we were punished for being who we are. So
Yeah.
I know.
I,
So it's like, well, finally this time around, I think that it's going good. I don't think that we're not in danger of being run out of the community. Maybe people will roll their eyes or not understand it, but I don't think we're in physical danger, at least.
yeah. Yeah, totally. I know I think our past selves would tell us now to like really bloom, really go for it, like really enjoy this freedom that we have, like really work our voice, like speak our truth, speak with authority about invisible worlds, like really go for it in this
Yeah.
lifetime.
And that's like my thing, is that like I just make it like matter of fact and normal for people and accessible. And it's like it's not so out there, and you don't have to be totally airy fairy flighty all the time. Like, I'm a very grounded kind of healer. So it's nice to make it normal for people. So, and I get that same vibe obviously from you. So
It's a gift to people to do that.
um I have like a couple things that I had written that I wanted to like maybe mention, but I know that we're not going to have enough time to say everything. But so like the stones being conscious beings, like that's you know that's a far stretch for some people to think, but like you'll know when stones look happy or sad or depleted. And I like that you recommend to bury the stone in the earth to recharge it. I haven't actually buried them, but I put them on the earth, and I'll leave them outside. And I know that they love it. And my kids are such little light workers, like little, rainbow children, crystal children. And when they were little, um, my youngest said, like I had left him outside overnight and it was like a thunderstorm and he's like, oh, they love that. And I just love that he already knew, you know. It's just like so cool. So do you have any like stories about like relating to communicating with the stones or like personalities that you've noticed or anything you want to mention in that department?
Gosh, well, I mean, here's what I really believe. I believe that, as our consciousness rises, we're at a certain place in our level of consciousness. And when our consciousness rises, which can be synonymous with the heart opening, but we have a long way to grow and go. And, everybody knows that if they sit down and breathe and get quiet and get centered, they have this opportunity to raise to higher levels of consciousness, every morning, every evening, whenever it is that we give ourselves that space. And when we move up in consciousness, when we move to higher levels of consciousness, what you will experience without a doubt is that everything is alive.
Yeah.
There's no, you will experience it. So it won't be a concept. It won't be a question. You will experience, like, even this lamp in front of me is alive. You'll experience that in higher states of consciousness. So it's just a universal truth that everything's alive. And now how the stones, how they're alive and how we sense them, I feel like that's a big topic, because different stones, like for instance, let me just say that I feel like stones, if they're just out in the wild, like if there's just this like calcite out in the wild on this mountain, they're all going to function under the same kind of like instinct program as all calcites in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
So they have their like life force, but it's kind of like a wolf or a bear. It's like these instinctive programs that are life in the wild, and that's kind of its life. But now if somebody gets that calcite and they rock on that calcite and they start to have a relationship with it, relationship is the great activator. So we have this human heart and we have this stone that's kind of like been picked and brought out, and it has this opportunity to like have a different destiny. And it already does have a different destiny, because we picked it out and we started this relationship. So everything that has a soul has a destiny, and all stones have a soul. So they all have a destiny. And when we start relating with it, it's like it changes the trajectory of its destiny. And then it starts to go on as like this evolutionary path. Because if you have a soul, you're also evolving. You're on an evolutionary path. So the stones are not only alive, but they're evolving, and they're responding to us as we're responding to them. And so what's alive in your stone and who it is and how you might sense it is like really a treasure chest. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but you're going to have these direct experiences based on relationship. Like, are you in relationship with this stone? That's how those experiences start to unfold.
I know it all started with a hematite, a chevron amethyst, and oh shit, oh yeah, malachite. Those three were like my first stones, and then I turn around and now I have a store, and I'm like, and now I've got a store. It just grows and grows and grows, and like there's so many. There's like not a shelf in my home that doesn't have a crystal on it. It's like they're just everywhere. So yeah, they're like, and it's so funny because you look at them so like adoringly, like, oh, they're so cute, like I just love it. I love sharing that with people, and I've turned so many people onto crystals just by coming as a client, and then they just get hooked. So I'm like, this is a good legacy for me. I'm happy about that. I'm happy to share this with others.
I love hearing your first three. And I feel like we should sometimes put those little plastic googly eyes on our stones so that we see, like, hey, this is a little friend, this is a little person, because that feeling, it's more true than the
Yeah,
other one of it being an inanimate object.
totally. I know. I remember being like skeptical, kind of, when I first got into crystals and people were talking about charging them, and I'm like, all right. And so I'm like, well, everyone keeps mentioning this, so I should put it on the windowsill, I guess. And like the next morning, I'm like, oh my God, like the crystal actually felt lighter in weight, and it was so much shinier. Like my cute hematite, it was like so much happier, and it was clear it was happier. So I just love
Yeah,
in that way with people.
I
um
love
my one thought that I haven't really gotten into to explore, but I'm sure you have an idea about this, but like the bedrock, the foundations of the crystals in different parts of the world and how that impacts the communities that live on that land. Like I love that concept. It like blows my mind. So like, and I know that like, if you land in a different, you take an airplane somewhere and the energy of the area feels different. And it's just like the Northeast has its Northeast feeling, and California and whatever. So do you have like anything to contribute towards that? Like, because like I know like Brazil, it's like all the dancey sexy, and then like we're in the Northeast, we're like, but we are more I forget what our most common, is it like, I don't know, granite or something, whatever it is, like the bedrock of the Northeast is why we are the way we are in the Northeast, kind of a thing. So
Yeah. Well, you're totally on point. I mean, the whole universal talent of crystals and why the earth would make these beautiful, precious treasures from her body is that they absorb, store, and transmit frequency. And it's not just non-binary information like ones and zeros, which they absolutely do. We wouldn't be on this computer without the chip in it. We wouldn't be able to talk to each other. But it's also non-binary information. And non-binary information is information that you can't really qualify with black and white. And that kind of information lives in the realm of the heart. It's a much bigger field of information. It includes blessings, it includes prayers, it includes mantra. I mean, it includes blessings from energy spirits. It includes, all of the frequency coming from the singularity. I mean, it's all potential. It's all possibility. So Gohong, the father of Chinese medicine, he's often called the father of Chinese medicine in ancient China. Gohong said stones are the laboratory of all possibility. That's one of his quotes. So if you think of all possibility, like what exists in the fifth dimension, what exists in the singularity, it's all possibility. Stones are actually the laboratory for all possibility. That means that all possibility is like, okay, this is my little laboratory. This is my little chemistry set, these stones. So say I'm an angel, a six-dimensional angel, whatever, and I want to put frequency into something so that some area of land can feel it, or some whole community can feel it, or some individual person can feel it. What they put it into is the stones. They don't put it into the trees, or they put it into stones because that's their job, is to absorb, store, and transmit information. So if you are someone from any dimension in this multi-dimensional universe, or a pocket of people, or just any frequency from the realm of all possibility, what you're going to do is you're going to look for stones, you're going to put frequency into it. And then hopefully that frequency, at this point, I think our biggest hope is that these frequencies will awaken humanity, because that's what we need right now.
right.
There are minds that I feel like are always getting worked with different energy. Whether people know about these crystals or not, there are a lot of extra dimensional influences that put frequency into stone so that we can feel it, so that we can evolve, so that we can change. There's a mind here that has been, it's actually one state over from me, but it is getting hit with a lot of energy about removing our programs in humanity about scarcity. And so that energy, or if you get a crystal from that mind, or the way that energy is proliferating, that's a gift. And maybe that frequency is coming from the earth because she's her own ballgame. Maybe that frequency is coming from the sun and imprinting the stones. Maybe it's coming from the galaxy, the universe, any kind of being. But there are billions and trillions of multidimensional influences, and they work with stone and crystal.
That's really cool. The other thing that I made a note of was just a little side note, that it's so hard not to like want to buy everything you mentioned, like, and I know that like in the class, if you would mention something, it's like, you better like run and jump and get to that store before everything sells out. So I was able to listen to something early enough that I was able to like yoink up whatever, like, and a few things, but one of them being the Cinnabar. And yesterday I was teaching a Reiki 3 class, and I brought out, and I have like all your stones like separate from like my other stuff, like, and I should keep them out because to be in a box in a drawer is not, but I just feel like they're so sacred that I need to like keep them like, separate. And they're small, so, but the Cinnabar, I've done this with a few people where I hand it to them just to see how they react to it. And I've had more, like probably about 4 people of maybe 20 or plus who held the Cinnabar, and they got goosebumps and the hair on their arms stand up. And I was like, that's not an uncommon, I've seen that before, but that happened to one of the women yesterday. It's just like,
amazing.
It's so cool. So, and like, I love the idea of like how you taught us to like do the protocols to like tape it, like use like medical surgical tape or whatever, and just tape it onto the different points. So you made it very accessible to like these major concepts. You're like, let me just distill it down and give you a couple like highlighted points so you can do this work too. You don't have to like do a lifetime of study to get to this point. So I really appreciated the 8 Extraordinary Meridian class. That was really cool. And I need to integrate it again. Like I had 2 clients who were my regulars who I did the protocols on, and they did have shifts. And it was always so amazing just to like be like, which one are we gonna do now? Like, so I just love it so much. It's just cool.
That's yeah,
and
like 5,500 different minerals and millions and billions of things that could be going on with any soul. It's good to have like a little bit of structure or framework to be like, let me just see if I can pick one of these 8, because you need some kind of way to like, get that filtered down.
yeah, it was really cool. And I don't know, I just really appreciate it. So it's like at some point, I'm sure there'll be like an opening where I could like dive in harder, but it was just like a peripheral, like a topical kind of experience. Um, and the other thing I made a note of was the scalar pyramid. And that was really cool. So I bought that from you guys, I guess last winter or something. Yeah, I don't remember when, but I brought it to one of my events that I had like a healing and wellness event type thing, a psychic fair, in other words, and I was just like, go take a seat in it. So people are like, what are we doing? How does this work? I'm like, I'm not really sure how it works, but it works. Like, I can't explain to you the science. I don't know. But it was always so cool. I'm like, go in it, you'll feel like you're growing. It's like, ooh. So
Oh,
I don't
that's
know
so
what
cool.
you can explain about that at all, but
Just different shapes pick up different subtle vibrations, and that shape of pyramid, it's a meditation pyramid in a certain shape, which is the shape of the golden ratio, put into the dimensions of a pyramid. And when it's made with all non-conductive materials, meaning no metals at all, even the screws and the little thing are plastic, because plastic's not conductive. What that means is that subtle frequency of scalar energy is able to come right into the pyramid, and it actually collects right in the center of the pyramid. So you can think of it almost like the kundalini of the earth, or the chi or the prana or the life force of everything around us kind of gets concentrated because of the shape alone. And then you can sit in that concentration of energy.
yeah, it was super cool. And I love sharing that with others. And then one final thing is just, I mean, I know this is like a whole course, so I don't expect you to really get into it, but like the way stones grow and then the way they look like molecularly are how they help to heal. And like that's where the medicine comes in, because it's like how they function is how they heal, kind of a thing. So can you like at least maybe give a general explanation of that?
Sure, I'll touch on it so quickly. So I've
I know.
what I call 16 classifications of stones. So those involve, like, one of the classifications is its chemical composition. Like calcite, is it calcium carbonate, right?
Right.
One of the other classifications is what level of the earth is it formed at? The deep level, the mid level, or the sedimentary level. So there's igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. So there's 16 different classifications of properties. They range from, is it hot or cold? Does it create hot or cold in the body? How was it harvested, which actually affects the properties of the stone. Now, when you take all 16 of these properties that are all just science, I mean, this is the science of the stone. It's how the stone was formed. Of course, color is one of them. And you take all of those and put it together, you get a sense of like kind of what kind of really specific antenna this stone forms. And a really specific antenna picks up really specific frequency. So that's how we determine what stones do. We say, for instance, rhodochrosite has a spicy taste. So taste is one of the classifications, has a spicy taste. So we talk about stones like herbs sometimes. So the spicy taste dilates things, it opens things, it dilates the pupils, it opens the vessels, it opens the organs. So what happens when we open or dilate sometimes is we can purge, because things open up. Like we can have like diarrhea, or we can throw up because things open. But think about also the dilation of the vessels happens, or the dilation of the pupils happens if we're on psychedelics, for example. So it's like we're opening our senses too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We go into these higher states of heightened awareness and consciousness with the application of rhodochrosite based on that spicy taste.
Right.
So we ground everything in those 16 classifications, and that's how we really determine the properties of stones.
And now you have like, just so people, if they were interested in learning from you, you do like every year you have your big course, and I forget the name of the bigger course. What is that?
So we offer a full certification course in stone medicine. That's a 9-week certification course in stone medicine. It's live online with me, so I'm with you the whole time. Every fall and every spring.
Okay, I thought it was just once. I
In the
guess this was.
spring is called Temple of Stone, and that's 27 stones. The one in the fall is called Enter the Cave, and that's 27 different stones. So if you
Okay.
end up taking both of these certification courses, you have a 52 stone Materia Medica under your belt. And then we have all these other smaller courses that you can take.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't commit to the big one. I was like, okay, I'll just take these little micro classes. Like I can handle that in my schedule. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I know you do like your webinars where you give people like a lot of good information. The radionics thing that kind of blew my mind. Just healing the land. Like just like you're like just draw a circle. I'm like, what? What? This is like so simple. It's hard. It's confused. Like it's so intense. So I just
I know.
really appreciated everything that you bring and that you are able to teach others and share it all. Is there anything that you want to otherwise mention? Because otherwise I'll let you go. I'm happy to talk to you though. It was nice.
Gosh, I feel grateful to you for the work that you do, for all these years that you've been helping people, explore what is unknown. And I just want to say that to all healers who are listening, like it is such a gift, it is such a treasure to help people speak with authority about their own invisible lives, their internal worlds, like what they're feeling. And so you healers out there, you're not really considered like a frontline worker like nurses and doctors and all these things, but I think that you are, and showing up for people. And I think that's incredible, and the most sacred, important work in the world. So I just want to give you all a little bit of love.
Well, thanks. We appreciate that. And same to you.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks. And then your website's like Upper Clarity. Is it upperclarity.com or is
It's
it
upperclarity.com.
okay? I wasn't sure if there was more to it. And people could find you at Sarah Thomas and at Upper Clarity, basically, right? Or is it one or the other or both?
If you go to Instagram,
Mhm.
it's Sarah E. Thomas.
Okay.
That's how you'll find all the crystal pictures and all the stuff that we do in our crystal shop. But if you just go to the website, upperclarity.com, you can just click on the social media link.
Yeah, there's a lot of information there. And also you have a storefront now in where is it in North Carolina?
It's just outside of Asheville, and we have a small shop where we carry like only the most incredible healing crystals in the world.
I know, and you vet everybody. You're like, the people that you're buying from, and have relationships with them, so you trust what you're receiving, which is
It's as far as sustainability and ethics and all that, we have deep relationships with who we work with, and it's a safe place to buy stones because we also only share stones that are not heat treated, dyed, or synthetically stabilized, so everything's pure.
I know I have such an aversion when I remember a student brought me a stone and she's like, look at this beautiful stone I found, and I was like, I couldn't not react, and I'm like, oh well, if you like it, that's great. I could tell it was like totally doctored with, and I was like, yeah, I don't even like it when people carve in stones, like they'll do like Reiki symbols and stones. I'm like, no, I don't like anything like damaging the stone. I'm like very like protective of them. So
You're a purist.
yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for spending some time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being patient with me. It's been a few months that we've been trying to do this, and I'm grateful to talk to all you guys.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Take care.